A gentleman's aesthetic preferences go far beyond their outfits, and that same critical care and attention is often mirrored in their interior design choices. What would Jay Gatsby be without his matching environment? In today's video, we're going to explore some interior design styles that are often seen as classic, masculine, and at home, with the principles seen in classic menswear. What is classically masculine interior design style? We're defining classically masculine interior design by the visual and function characteristics within these design philosophies that help evoke the aspirational qualities of strength, simplicity, and sophistication that we believe many men on this channel would also like to emulate. Number 1, Art Deco. Art Deco is a style of interior design that originated in Europe in the 1910s and flourished there and in the US during the 1920s through the 1930s. You'll likely recognize it from the classic films like Metropolis, Dinner at 8, the Thin Man series, or in modern period pieces like adaptations of The Great Gatsby or in Batman the Animated Series. It's mainly characterized by the use of bold geometric shapes, rich colors, and lavish ornamentation, taking inspiration from design principles found in antiquity, especially ancient Egypt, and fused with the technical achievements of the 20th century. One of the key elements behind it being an exceptional expression of masculinity is the use of strong geometric shapes and symmetry, since their use gives an area of sense of stability and structure. Some of the most common color schemes you'll see used in Art Deco include bottle green, deep reds, purples, blacks, whites, and sometimes even yellows or pinks. Oftentimes, metallic finishes in gold, silver, brass, or steel are also used to accent the surrounding colors and offer a bold pop of visual interest to design. Mirrors were frequently used to further emphasize this. Wood or marble is often used for the flooring as well, and can commonly either be seen in herringbone and parquet flooring. Patterns with simple gold or brass inlays, or checkered and chessboard patterns to reinforce that geometric through line. Its furniture tends to be large or oversized without a ton of intrinsic detailing and frills. Often preferred clean silhouettes, though fluted detailing and dramatic historical motifs like simple classic imagery or sunburst were often employed. Along with velvet and leather, rich and exotic materials or prints like zebra, shark, or leopard were increasingly employed. Finally, Art Deco rooms were often given lighting fixtures that would serve as the focal point for the room, and would usually be one of the more intrinsically designed elements to reinforce this style's flair for the dramatic. Number 2, industrial. Industrial interior design is a style heavily inspired by warehouses and factories. Emphasizing raw, unfinished aesthetics, it often features exposed brick, walls, metal accents, open layouts, and reclaimed wood. It appears in a lot of 2010 films, including Inception, John Wick, and any movie that features a rave in a warehouse. The origins of industrial interior design can be traced all the way back to the 18th century, when commercial spaces began to utilize vast open rooms and utilitarian materials in their construction. This functional approach was repurposed later in the mid and late 20th century to residential living spaces, often in gentrifying industrial zones where warehouses were being converted into homes. Often the masculine appeal of industrial designs comes from its grittier materials and rugged finishing, giving it a unique blend of utilitarian and unpretentious aesthetics that are simultaneously blended with a sleek and more polished element to give it a unique and multifaceted dimension. These sort of rooms often use a neutral and earthy color palette that are often muted, so the architectural and decorum often takes center stage, and are meant to serve more as a backdrop for everything else, given the floor plan lacks the traditional walls and structures seen in other design philosophies. High ceilings with floor-to-ceiling windows are commonly used to try and make the space feel larger and brighter than it'd be normally. Flooring, typical of the industrial interior design style, features raw and unfinished materials such as concrete, cement, or concrete look tiles. Often in neutral and gray tones, sometimes paired with reclaimed or weathered wood to add warmth and texture while maintaining a minimalist, utilitarian aesthetic. The textures you'll often see accompanying them are unfinished woods, concrete, and exposed brick, giving these areas a raw and slightly weathered appearance. Metallic undertones with exposed pipe, steel, and iron are key to this style, since they help to contrast against these more stubby fabric and material textures, and gives the room its distinctive industrial atmosphere. You'll often see repurposed and recycled materials being used, along with lower hanging, stripped down lighting like Edison bulbs to help reduce some of the harshness that will otherwise be present without them, and to keep these things from feeling overly cold. Number 3, rustic. Rustic interior design is a style that emphasizes organic materials and natural elements over overly refined or industrial elements. This style is inspired by building techniques of the early 1800s when rugged homesteads were built in America's countryside using handcrafted, raw, and natural materials, and its modern iteration was regularly employed through the 20th century. Think of a hunting lodge, mountain retreat, fishing cabin, or even a conventional man cave, and you'll have a good idea of what we mean by rustic. The rustic style's masculine associations are fairly obvious, being evocative of wide open spaces, carving out a living in the nature, and the lifestyle typical of the modern day cowboy, while being on the opposite end of the spectrum from the industrial style in regards to many materials. Both design styles share the same desire to showcase both rugged and raw materials with more refined elements in open spaces to create a multifaceted feeling through simple contrast. Often, one of the most defining elements of rustic interior design is the use of raw woodwork, stone, and an earthy color palette to serve as a backdrop for everything else. Flooring, typical of rustic interior design style, features natural materials like wood, often reclaimed, distressed, or hand-scraped to showcase knots, grain, and imperfections, or stone, with both options emphasizing earthy tones, visible texture, and an aged, tire-worn characteristic that highlights authenticity and warmth. Furniture will also often reflect this emphasis on organic materials with reclaimed wood, and fabrics like linens, cottons, and leathers, with handmade, simple decor to reinforce this rustic style. This connection is further emphasized by connections to the animal kingdom. This would come in the form of materials like leather and the use of animal motifs. Animals also feature prominently as taxidermy or in the integrity of the use of animal parts like antlers. Metalwork tends to be used sparingly when needed or not at all, as the emphasis is put on the pieces that look repurposed from nature. Mid-century modern. Mid-century modern is a design movement that emerged in the mid-20th century, roughly from 1945 to 1970s, characterized by simple, functional forms and a focus on natural materials. It is closely associated with the films starring the Rat Pack or period TV like Mad Men, and it is featured prominently in our video on modern interior design. It is often associated with post-World War II ideals that preferred a simple and less intricate design philosophy, opting instead for clean lines and plain and functional materials, including the new plastic fantastic approach, but also hardy and utilitarian wood and stone varieties. Part of its masculine appeal comes from its desire for form to follow function by seeking harmony and a controlled environment through a less is more approach. Often, mid-century spaces offer a neutral color palette, so the furniture around it can take center stage, but in other cases, pops of color can be seen if the remaining pieces around it are otherwise neutral. Most artwork, embellishments, or points of interest are kept at eye level, and often a strategic use of mixed materials are used to create this feeling of harmony. You'll usually see some accents and pops of more lavish materials like marble and leather contrasted with acrylics and wood. By focusing in on the accents, you can find pops of personality and whimsy that help to give stage to personality pieces as conversation starters, with everything else helping to frame these points of interest. Greenery is also frequently used to help convey the sense of a more organic lifestyle, with a goal to create a fresh and calming environment and to be at peace with nature. And while not as bold as Art Deco, many mid-century pieces also use geometric shapes and patterns to help impart that feeling of stability and strength to an area, with hints of metallic detailing to draw the eye towards a certain piece. Mid-century modern flooring is typically characterized by smooth, light-toned hardwoods with straight grain, large format tiles in geometric patterns or concrete looks, terrazzo, cork, and vinyl or laminate options, all emphasizing clean lines, minimalism, and a blend of natural and man-made materials for a warm yet streamlined aesthetic. Lighting is also a key element to consider, as both natural and warm light helps to create an inviting space and reinforce that quintessential feeling of balance. Number 5, traditional. The traditional interior design style is a popular style that is essentially an amalgamation of some of the best and most popular elements of the 18th and 19th century domestic styles, including neoclassical, Regency, and Victorian styles. These principles were later reinterpreted during the 20th century to try and replicate this old world feeling in a modern context. The traditional style is often associated with old money, and some great examples can be seen in the films like Rebecca, Laura, Sabrina, and I guess any film named after a woman's name. The biggest masculine pull here is that this style emphasizes strong, durable materials like dark woods, leather, sophisticated and stately color palettes, clean lines, and robust functional furnishings. These elements evoke strength, sophistication, and a timeless sense of order commonly associated with masculine aesthetics. They are also evocative of the historical eras and spaces commonly associated with the early history of the modern gentleman. Often, the traditional style from a US perspective is more of an accumulation of multiple previous design styles that all have stood the test of time, while means putting a focus on quality investment pieces like Chesterfield couches, grand pianos, and grandfather clocks. Usually, the end goal is to create a strong feeling of symmetry and highlighting subtle, detailed handwork like crown molding and wainscoting. Often, refined wood, leather, and stone are going to be a backdrop for the materials used, with wallpaper and timeless patterns like plaids and florals being used as accent pieces. Rugs, upholstery, and textiles also tend to be more subtle, but put an emphasis on natural materials and have pops of colors for extra points of detail to draw in the eye. Using darker hardwood and subtle metallic elements as accent pieces are also commonplace here. Essentially, this style takes bits and pieces of design philosophies adopted from previous historic eras and looks to repurpose them in a modern context. Good interior design is both a reflection of you and the environment you wish to strive for. And while you don't have to perfectly match all of these design choices within your own life and living space, we hope that this exercise will help you get inspired and have some timeless visions to fall back on when making your personal spaces your own. What classically masculine interior design elements will you introduce into your personal spaces? Or what other design styles would you like us to cover? Let us know down in the comments.